Hello guys, in this video we are gonna make a creature, a monster head. So as usual I took a dynamic sphere and using my move brush I am gonna create the basic shape of the cranium, the skull from the side angle, and I'm gonna adjust the overall head shape from the top angle. So this front part of the skull needs to be narrower than the back, so it should create a shape like that. And from the side angle we can notice this kind of point or the peak area, like that's the Everest, and Everest peak is just behind the ear. And here I just marks that area and then pull that area out as to create my neck. And when you pull and stretch things with dynamics, we need to hold control and drag outside to recreate the resolution in that stretch area. So here we are using this concept to create that monster. I'm gonna just create that head, and I'm gonna adjust the basic shape of the skull. So guys, please subscribe my channel if you have not, and then so that you don't miss any of my videos. Here I'm sculpting the nose, basically kind of placing that features, and that is the muzzle of the mouth, and then that is the protrusion of that chin. Here I just put a dent line like this to create that form, the cheekbone and that nasal labia fold. And as you can notice, I'm working at a very low resolution, so it's I think 34 dynamics resolution. So always start with 30 or 40 resolution and do this blocking part. Here I'm blocking the temporal line, so that is the temporal line, and there will be the temporalis muscle. So that muscle is attached to the mandible, so that is the jaw bone. So temporalis muscle and temporal line, and this is the frontal eminence. So that is a kind of spear coming out of the skull, so that shape is protruding out, so that is called frontal eminence. Adjusting the nose, and here will be the eye socket and the cheekbone, the zygomatic. So in a general term we call that cheekbone, but in anatomical term we call that zygomatic arch. Here you can see I'm using clay tubes to create forms, and then I'm also keep using the move brush. Here I just mask and invert the mask to pull out the ear. So the ear is very kind of long and kind of an animal. And you can see I just push that area in because the temporalis muscle has the tendon there, so that area a little bit kind of carved in. Here I'm adjusting the chin. The chin is a little bit wide and defined and protruding outside of the head. And this is the indication I'm putting for the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So that muscle is coming kind of attached to the back side of the ear, to the uh, mastoid process, sorry. And this muscle this muscle's name has 22 letters, sternocleidomastoid muscle. So this is the cylindrical forms there. You don't need to remember these names, these very complicated names, but if you are teaching, then I would suggest you remember these names. And in general I would suggest to remember these names because, let's say, here I'm making the trapezius muscle, so that's attached to the base of the skull behind there, and it's going to attach with the clavicle, and then obviously with the spine, which we are not going to do. So that is sternocleidomastoid muscle, and then behind there the trapezius. Okay, this in between area is kind of carved in a concave shape. That is, this is the master process. The process, when I say process, that is a bony protrusion to for the attachment of different muscle. The sternocleidomastoid muscle attached there. We were gonna do the horn now. So for the horn, I'm gonna use snake hook brush. So basically this brush allows you to pull and create a horn kind of form, and then we can kind of keep pulling and create that horn basically from there. And I'm gonna also use inflat to give my forms back, the overall volume back. So because when we are stretching, we don't have the volume there, so it's very thin. And so what I'm doing after I stretch, I'm holding control and dragging outside to recreate that dynamic so that I get resolution there, and then I'm using inflat in on that area to give my to get my volume there, so that I can even stretch that area and kind of lengthen that horn. So using move brush, a big move brush to adjust the overall arc, overall form of the horn, and here you can see trying to get that beautiful arch of that horn. So whenever you do things, always try to get the big flow and rhythm and the proportion right first before you jump into any detail, even for simple details like the big primary forms. The first thing you need to get is the rhythm of the model, the rhythm of everything. When I say rhythm, I mean the arch and the where if there is any straight line, if there are any curves, S curves, C curves, those kind of stuff. So get the rhythm and the proportion. Proportion, when I say proportion, I'm talking about how big or small it is compared to other things. Like let's say how big the horn needs to be compared to the head. So the proportion needs to be there and the flow needs to be there before you do any kind of details and jump to detail. That's something I'm trying to get, the rhythm and the proportion. And to get that, we can only use move brush and smooth those stuff. So using damp standard with holding alt is giving me that kind of ridge or pulling. So when you are using damp standard with holding alt, it's gonna pull those vertex instead of pushing. Dynamics usually push the points inward and then create a kind of curved in shape. So when you hold alt, it's gonna pull out. So here I hold used inflat, holding alt to push that area, and again using damp standard with holding alt to get that kind of angular shape of that horn. So this is the basic shape. The horn is not round or very cylindrical here, it's kind of angular and kind of triangle shape. So as you can notice, once I got that flow and the proportion, then I went for this kind of details, defining that ear. So there needs to be a good amount of gap between the ear and the back of the skull. So the ear is not fully kind of welded to the skull there at that back area. And this shape is usually, the cheekbone is usually goes towards the ear hole, but in this particular situation the that form is going and kind of connected to the horn, and that gives a very good looking form and very interesting looking shape. So and there you can see that superciliary arches I just put on the forehead, and here I'm gonna increase the resolution from 34 to 64. And this is the process. You start with the low resolution and you do the big forms, big kind of flow and proportion right, and then you increase it a little bit, maybe you doubled it, and then you start defining a little bit small areas. Like I increase that, and now I'm working at the eye, creating that eyeball shape, kind of shape, as if the eye is closed and we're looking at the skin. So this is the nose, and usually the nose base is a little bit towards the head, and I just put that line to create that nasal labia fold plus that overall mouth muzzle protrusion shape. Here using damn standard to get that lip line, and then I'm gonna push this in between area to form that mouth inside part. So here adjusting using my damn standard and looking at overall. So I'm not working at a particular area and try to define that for a long time. I'm working very quickly on different areas, looking at the head from as an overall head, and looking at the whole head and try to get the overall form and the feel. And here I'm putting those muscle. Here you can see those rounded muscle around that mouth. And it doesn't matter if you are doing a creature or a monster, so you are gonna use human anatomy. So I can't stretch it enough. You need to learn human anatomy if you are serious about becoming a character artist. So you need to learn human anatomy. So otherwise you cannot do even creatures and monsters, even though they don't look like humans. But if you are creating a humanoid kind of this kind of creature, you need to have human anatomy elements there. So that's why Leonardo da Vinci, if you know him, he was a old master, he was a great artist. So he said, if you want to create something new or create something from your mind, then you need to learn human and lion. He said you need to learn anatomy of human and anatomy of lion, I mean animal. So you need to learn both the anatomy in order to create anything from your mind. So here defining that ear using my damn standard brush, and even though it's a kind of creature ear, when I was sculpting it, I was kind of focusing on creating it exactly like a realistic human ear. It just a little bit stretched, but the elements are there. You can see the helix is there, the in between parts are there. Depending the back side. Yeah, notice I'm still keep trying to get the flow of everything. Every piece has its own rhythm and flow, so we need to get those things. You're using dance standard to get that eye to help him open his eye. Append a ball, append a spear as an eyeball. So I'm switching between subtools by holding alt and left click, and here I'm again keep adjusting the overall form, because when you start a model it's very hard to know everything at first. So as you go to move forward, then you start to see the model in different ways. So you see new things. You may see, oh, it's wider, so I need to make it narrow or swallow. So you keep watching, you keep getting those kind of things, so you keep adjusting the overall forms. So don't say I'm done with overall shape and then I'm gonna do the details. Always be open always be open to adjust the big forms. So as you can notice one thing, I have turned off the symmetry while I'm working at that area. So because when you are working at the center of the head, center of the face, it's very asymmetrical, so there isn't any symmetry. So I'm hiding these things by holding Control Shift Alt. So that's a ridge, protruding ridge here. As you may guys know, I also create some premium tutorials. I teach all the time. That's my full-time job. So I create tutorials, and because I love to teach. So I have some premium tutorials. I'm gonna put a link in the description so that you can find those tutorials. I teach on Udemy and some different places. So I have my premium tutorials. You can, if you find my works informative, then you can check those out. They are very cheap and affordable, so you can check those out. They are very well made and big courses, like 20-30 hours courses, and I cover everything there. So I start a character and I took that character to the end. So here kind of defining that area, the horn area, the eye area, using my clay tube brush. So I have some bestseller courses, and one of those bestseller courses is my realistic character one. So in that course I talk about how to create a realistic male character, and that is a bestseller on Udemy, so you can check that out. In that course I covered kind of skin details and everything. Here you can see the upper eyelid always overlap the lower eyelid, so you need to check that. And the eye angle is like this, so the corner of the two eyes are not on a parallel line, so there is an angle. So I just mirrored the eyeball using subtool master mirror option. Looking at the head overall, here I'm putting some kind of wrinkle or some forms which I find interesting in the concept. And defining everything using my damn standard brush. So here adjusting the eye corner using my move brush, and then I'm gonna shift to this mouth area. I'm gonna refine this lips. Eventually I'm gonna do the teeth separately, but I'll start with here and I'll sculpt here, then I'll extract and make those individual teeth. So again using damn standard to create this kind of forms, wrinkles and those forms. So guys, kindly suggest me some topic for my premium courses. So at this time I'm focusing on creating character courses, so don't request me for kind of props and environment. I don't do those things anymore, so I'm focusing on creating characters only, character tutorials. So suggest me some character tutorials topic. and if you need something from me, so I may do those courses. So you can write those suggestion on the comment area. You can write those as a comment. You can see the monster is very strong, so the neck and the sternocleidomastoid muscles, those are very heavy and wide, thick. And here I'm using move brush to create big forms, so I felt like I don't have sufficient big interesting forms there. And it was looking more kind of human than monster, so I need to change that a little bit. So looking at the concept basically and trying to get create some secondary forms. So this is not an exactly a human, so um, so there are some weird and interesting shapes which I'm kind of trying to copy and follow. So again, using my dance standard, defining those teeth. So basically I'm sketching those teeth. I'm gonna extract those and create those as separate piece. So here I'm starting to creating secondary forms, small details forms. I'm using my damn standard brush to create this kind of horn lines. You can see this kind of vertical lines. Using damn standard with alt, I'm creating this kind of forms here. I'm not gonna detail these horns and even detail the model. I'll kind of do something and I'll left something at the medium level detail. So here I masked one side and using this smart resymmetry option under the deformation menu. So because I just realized that I had the symmetry brush turned off and I did few things on the side, and then I don't have all those details on this side. So what I did is mask the side I have already done with the detail, and then I just went to the deformation menu and click on smart resymmetry. So it's gonna put the details to the unmasked side. So you need to mask the side which we have already done, and the other side needs to be unmasked. Here I just increase the dynamics resolution so that I can have a little bit more polygon to work with. I can define these things more. So now as you can notice, it's very kind of kind of pixelated looking or kind of faceted. And here using dance standard, defining that eyelid thickness properly. And again the upper eyelid overlaps the lower eyelid, so and from the side angle we should be able to see this kind of angle. So the upper eyelid is kind of forward, then the lower eyelid should go backward towards the head. And defining the thickness of the lower eyelid. those kind of muscles. And again, whenever I kind of work at this area, I'm turning up the symmetry. As you can notice, now I'm not working with symmetry. So you can press X key to turn that up. This area needs to be very asymmetrical, so if you do this area symmetrical, then it's gonna look very kind of 3D and not realistic. Looking at the head from different angle, trying to find some area where I can adjust the bigger forms before I kind of jump into small details or those kind of stuff. I'm not gonna do, as I said, I'm not gonna do any very small level details. It's more kind of how to start the model, how to define the proportion and the overall flow, and how we can create some details. So here you can see I'm using dam standard to create this kind of forms, and then I'm using standard brush on top of those details to create even more secondary forms. So standard brush is very good at this stage when you have already done some very small level details, and now you can use standard brush on top of that to create a little bit bigger secondary forms than the actual small details. So it's basically using dam standard and standard. Dam standard to create more kind of wrinkled kind of line shape, and then using standard to create more kind of wobbly or those kind of secondary forms. Here I'm masking this area because there is a kind of layering effect on the skin, so very good interesting shape. And then using inflat brush to inflate that area, that border area. You can see I'm inflating that area, and it's gonna look like this. And this trapezius muscle needs to be big because it's very strong. So whenever you're creating a kind of superhero strong character, that trapezius muscle coming behind the skull needs to be very big and defined. And on girls and female character, that tends to be very neutral and subtle. Basically this is the process you need to follow. No, it doesn't matter whatever you are doing. I mean, you need to follow this process on everything. It doesn't matter if you are creating a realistic human or creating a kind of creature or something else. The process is you start with the low resolution mesh, and then you go and divide, and then go towards higher division, higher details. So kindly suggest me character topics so that I can create tutorials according to you guys, according to your need. So I turned on the perspectivity, so it was turned off, and here I selected the eye, and then using my standard brush try to create that kind of bulge or kind of shape here. You can also use this technique. You can go to standard brush and then change that option to freehand, from freehand to drag dot, and then you can do that shape. And here I'm gonna paint the eyeball. So I chose toy plastic, and then you can go to turn up the GR or G-Shop, make sure MRGB is selected, and then you can go to color and then fill object. You can choose the color first, and then make sure you have turned on the MRGB option, and then you can fill that area. So here I'm gonna put a little bit kind of maybe little bit dark tone. So yeah, I'm putting the material here, matte cap skin material on the model. You choose the material and then you choose a color for the skin, and then you make sure that mRGB option is turned on there, and then you can go to color and fill object. And here I'm masking this area so that I can extract these teeth, and then we can separate those. So you can go to split and split masked point. So you need to mask first and then you can go and do that. So now this part is separate from the head, and so I'm gonna Z-remesh it so that I get a little bit good a little bit better topology. So you can go to G-remesh and choose a target poly count, and then you hit on that G-remesher option. So here you can see that empty area, we can just, you are using Dynamics, so we can just control drag outside to fill that area. So Dynamics automatically fills any hole while recreating the Dynamics area. Then I'm pushing this area so that I can put the teeth inside there. And I'm not sure at this stage if I do all those teeth separately, because it's just a model here, we are not gonna animate it or something. So we can make those separate looking for more realism. If you do this, it's gonna look more like a sculpture or something. Let's see. So in between here I crashed my file, and then if you encounter with this kind of thing, you can go to the lightbox here, and this open file area, you will find that recovered file, and you can start from there. But it's a good practice to save very often, and sometimes I forget to do that. So I'm gonna use a toy plastic material on the teeth. So as it's a signing piece, a toy plastic material is very good for shiny object like teeth, eye, those kind of stuff. So because it's a single piece, it's not looking that great right now, but if we create those teeth individually, I mean separately from each other, then it would look a little bit better. And here I chose a little bit reddish tone, and then RGB there. So I turned off any G-add or G-sob on the standard brush, and just the RGB option is turned on. And with that option, I'm gonna put a little bit reddish tone, and then here a little bit purple tone. So at this, I'm not sculpting now, I'm just painting color. So my G-add or G-sob both are turned off, and the only option is turned on is the RGB. So try to give that variation, the different skin tone. The skin is not same everywhere. So on the forehead, we can expect a little bit yellowish tint, and on this nose tip area, the ear area tends to have more reddish tone because of the blood vessels, and the where you have more flesh, you tend to see that reddish tone. And because the forehead is basically the skull, so you don't see more reddish tone there, that is more yellowish. And here I'm putting a dark kind of brown tone to the horn. You don't need to poly paint here if you are gonna take this model to even, let's say, Maya or something. a 3D software and then you're planning to render there, you don't need to poly paint here. But if you're not gonna texture the character, and it's a good way to present your model, you can poly paint and then render even inside Zbrush. So trying to give a little bit dark shading to the eye sides. So it was a single color before, so a little bit shading, around that eye and corner is always looks good. So I think I'm gonna separate these teeth. So I mask that teeth area and then go to split and split. You can see my split hidden option are turned off. I mean split unmasked option. So it's because I had division label, so I need to delete that division label before I do that. So you don't need to have any division labels there if you wanna kind of separate or split things. So then I'm gonna turn on dynamics so that it fills the backside part, and you can see I'm trying to give a little bit volume to the side, otherwise we are gonna get this kind of weird shapes. So using my inflat brush, I'm gonna give a little bit volumes and then redynamics to get a even more cleaner object. So basically I'm gonna do the same process on each teeth. Select it, turn on dynamics so that it fills the backside, and then use inflat to give it a little bit volume so that you don't get that kind of weird kind of zigzag shapes. So using unflat, kind of getting the volume, then control drag outside to recreate it. I'm not gonna spend good amount of time on this teeth. Obviously I can spend more time and make those even better looking, but that's not the point here, that's not important here. I'm not trying to create a very good looking model here. The main goal is to pass on the process so that you can see the process, and then you can spend a little bit more time than me to refine the shapes, but the process is needs to be there. So that's what I'm trying to show you, the process. And usually these things takes time, like sculpting a head in detail maybe takes 3 to 4 hours, and you cannot see it. I mean you can see it, but most of the guys cannot look at a video which is 2 3 hours long. And when I do these videos for YouTube, I need to kind of compromise with the quality a little bit, because I cannot create a video so long. I can create playlist with multiple videos of course, but I'm not doing that right now. Let's see if I do that in future. But if you check my premium courses, there I'll go with very details, and all those videos are very kind of not longer than maybe 10 to 15 minutes, so you can look at the videos and take a break in between. So I know the teeth are not looking that good, but I think I'm gonna compromise with this, and I think you can forgive me for the teeth. I'm not spending time for the teeth here. So again, toy plastic, fill the object with the toy plastic and a color, base color for the teeth. And when you do this, make sure the mRGB option is turned on, and then I'm gonna choose a kind slightly darker color, because he's a monster, so he probably won't be able to he won't be brush very often, and so that's why he has a lot of cavities and very dirty looking teeth. So that's what I'm trying to create. So right now RGB option is turned on, so I'm just painting the color, I'm not sculpting anything. So the G add and G sub options are turned off. And as you can see, I'm putting a little bit yellowish tint. As I said earlier, he's not brushing his teeth very often, so he gets those yellowish tint and that dirty looking teeth. You can even put a little bit blood kind of blots on the teeth so that it looks more kind of, he has just uh, completed his dinner, let's say, and he has all those blots on the teeth. You can do that as well, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm putting a little bit dark tone as if he was having a little bit kind of kajal on the eyes. And again, as I said, you can spend a little bit more time sculpting and putting more details and even on painting, and of course it's gonna look better than me. Putting the eyebrows color here, blending to the forehead, very interesting shape. So guys, I think I'm gonna stop the video. I think I'm done with this. So thank you very much for watching my videos, and please subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon so that you won't miss any of my YouTube videos. And kindly check out my premium courses if you are interested from learning from me. So thank you very much for watching this video. I'll see you in a new video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.